Hello, the Pioneer viewers. As you know, our agenda is the Russia-Ukraine war. The war continues with intense attacks. In recent days, mutual moves are causing very important developments. In case of war, the state's leaders tend to hide failures from the public. In democratic countries, it is difficult to convince the public to go to war, but in authoritarian countries, the public's views on the war are not taken into account. As a result, the war goes on in spite of the people. In order to minimize public reactions, various disinformation is produced. The public is kept out of the process and forced to live far from the truth. Failures in the war are not accepted by the rulers and blamed on other reasons. The public is expected to obey. We have witnessed many of Russia's failure after its invasion of Ukraine. The Russian army suffered significant losses against the Ukrainian army. The losses and the protracted war have taken a toll on the Russian economy. Along with these negativities, a harsh wind emanating from the Kremlin put pressure on the soldiers on the front line. Russian soldiers on the front line are subjected to intensive violence. Russian commanders are trying to cover up their failures by using soldiers. The new report reveals the extent of the violence and pressure Russian soldiers are subjected to. From the first days of the war, the Russian army tried to control the soldiers with extraordinary methods. Soldiers who wanted to leave the front were executed on a large scale. The desertion problem of the Russian army was quite high. In recent days, new practices have emerged. The pressure and the violence that the Russian soldiers were subjected to was revealed by the Russian soldiers. Now, if you are ready, let's examine what happened in the Russian army and the latest developments together. As the Pioneer, we continue to report on the Russia-Ukraine war. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily map reports and reports on the agenda. I also read all your comments on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments with us. Let's start if you are ready, the Pioneer reports. A group of Russian soldiers stationed in Ukraine released a video the other day. In the video, the Russian soldiers stated that their commanders forced them to go on a mission with a high risk of death. The Russian soldiers said that they refused to accept such a risky mission in plain sight. The soldiers claimed that the commanders' motivation for ordering them to die was to cover up a past mistake that resulted in the destruction of their other units. The soldiers shared a video of their statements on social media. The video was quickly viewed by thousands of people. The social media users who watched it made many comments and shared their views on this issue. Videos of the Russian soldiers complaining about the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russian military leaders are frequently shared. Developments in the Russian army are drawing serious reactions. Soldiers in the Russian army are subjected to major sanctions if they refuse to fight. In another video published the other day, a Russian soldier made statements to avoid being sent back to the front line. In the video shared, a Russian soldier who lost his eye while fighting on the front line wanted to be sent back to the front lines of Ukraine. In this case, the soldier who lost his eye shared the video in which he made a defense to Vladimir Putin to cancel the order. The soldiers in the latest video are stationed in Kremlin region. Kremlin is a small village on the eastern bank of the Dnieper River in southern Ukraine. The settlement and its surroundings have been the scene of intense fighting in recent weeks, with the Kiev announcing earlier this month that its forces has gained control of the area in what is seen as a key strategic victory over the Russian forces. The video of soldiers in Kremlin began with the speaker saying that they have been deployed in the area since July 30th without return, without a single day off. He said that some of the soldiers in the area were without ammunition and some without armor. The speaker identified the commander of the unit as Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Petrovich Zalko. He also mentioned the unit's call sign. The speaker said that our battalion commander was forcing us to deploy an island, but the island in question do not contain any shelter. Going to the islands, which are in range of Ukrainian bombs, means being an open target. The Russian soldiers continued by accusing his commander of giving false reports about the situation in Kremlin, including that the Russian military operations there were successful. The Russian soldier reported that from the first day that everything was really good here. He said that we were intact, but in fact we have 50 people left from 3 battalions. The Russian soldier's speech reveals the state of the Russian troops in the region. After dozens of casualties and loss of ammunition, no one wants to admit failure. Turning to deployment to fight on the island in the Dnieper, The soldier said that his unit refused to go, but invited the commander to accompany them there. The speaker then said that the commander wanted to send them to the island where they would face certain defeat because he was already responsible for many troops' death. The real reason for the Russian commander's order was allegedly to lose track of the Russian contingent in the area. The commander, who wants to send 50 troops to the island, is clearly trying to send them to their death. But Russian soldiers do not accept the situation. Unusual practices have been practiced in the Russian army since the beginning of the war. In the early days of the war, a unit was formed to execute soldiers who tried to escape from the front. These units, called barrier units, executed Russian soldiers who wanted to leave the front line. In addition, in the areas where there were no barrier units, soldiers were exposed. In recent months, a new method was determined for Russian soldiers who behaved undisciplined within the army. Russian soldiers were gathered in training camps. In the training camps, they were subjected to psychological and physical violence. They were kept in the dark pits for days without food and water. After completing this process called training, Russian soldiers were sent back to the front. Many people are reacting to the scandalous situation of the Russian army. Those who want to react within Russia face an intense police intervention. According to the law intact in Russia, criticizing the war is met with a direct imprisonment. For this reason, the public reaction seems to be quite suppressed. The families of Russian soldiers are reacting to be reunited with their soldiers. Stating that Russian soldiers who go to the front can only come back in case of death, the families are worried. They state that the soldiers whose contracts have expired are not sent home and they cannot get good news from the front line. What do you think about the death order given by the Russian commander? How do you evaluate the scandals in the Russian army? Do you think the Ukrainian army can make new gains by taking advantage of the turmoil? Do you think the methods used by the Russian army against the soldiers are correct? What do you think about the situation on the front line will be when the winter day comes? We care about your opinion. Please share it with us.